Hey everyone, I'm gonna have a video. Abby's asking me. We're kind of shooting our heads back and forth, and what am I gonna do a video on? And ISIS came up, and it's like, okay. She wanted me to do a video on Hilarion, and I'm thinking, I got the sign going across, and it's like not saying I won't do it in the future, but right now it's not calling me to do that. ISIS is something that I want to do. I always have a huge respect for women. And one of the reasons I do is because my mother had cancer, and I seen how she handled that. And her whole time, she had cancer for like 12 years, and she suffered horribly. But through that time, I seen how strong a woman can be. And the birth of my children, the same thing. Women are very strong in a lot of ways, and I have a lot of respect for them. But men and women both have a role to play. So we have to be equals. We can't be one or the other. You can't rule over women, and women can't rule over men. We have to treat each other with respect and dignity and love, because we have to be working together and not separate. It's a separation that is the problem, not when we work together. Because when men and women work together, we can do fucking anything. And it's so true. And there needs to be more than that. I'm telling you, there needs to be more of it in the world. I'm sick and tired of women being mistreated. I'm sick and tired of men being mistreated, because it goes both ways. The difference is that men suffer quietly. And so do women too, I guess. So I'm going to do ISIS because she's a very strong woman in history. And I think it just rings true to me right now. And I always follow my intuition when it comes to doing journeys into people, into things, because you have to. You can't simply just. I always follow what's inside myself. That's the easiest way to put it, and that's ringing true to me now. So I'm going to go to ISIS, and I see. This is a little bit cliche. On both sides, I see babies lined up, and they're wrapped in white. And I see a woman walking down in the middle of them, and she's got her arms out, and she's giving. As she walks, the babies disappear, and there's like golden flakes coming from her hands, and the golden flakes go into the babies, and the babies disappear one by one by one by one. And I see them going into mother's arms. It's actually just sped up, but it's very beautiful to watch, because she's blessing all these babies and sending us the part of their souls back to the babies that are in the mothers. So these babies are brought forward by her to give blessings to them. And by giving blessings to them, she sends them back to the mothers. And it's actually quite extraordinary. I've never seen anything like this. And she walks up and all the way, and there's it goes into a U shape, and she goes to the end, and she turns around. More babies appear, and she walks down the other direction, doing the same thing. This time you see her from the front. And she's got a really long robe that drags on the ground from behind, and a very tight fitting in the front, but she has almost like the dress is very long in the back, and and she's walking. And this is what I noticed. It's very ornate. It's like white with gold, and the cape is darker with full of gold. And as the cape goes along the ground, it creates gold flakes. And this gold energy from her hands is going into the babies, and she's blessing them. And she goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then she stops. And she simply turns around and spins and disappears. And I'm standing. We're going through a vortex, is the best way to describe it. It's moving energy. And I'm just feeling this energy right now. And we're just going somewhere. She's not saying a word. She's just simply. We're just going through this very, very beautifully colored energy. It's like pink, purple, and blue with some white. And we're going through this tunnel, and she's not saying a word to me. And we reach, well, I don't know, it's taking a while to get there. I'm not sure why it's taking a while. So I just simply just relax, and I breathe in. And when I breathe in, I breathe the energy into me instantly. It's like as soon as I relax and breathe in, all this beautiful colored light goes into my body. It kind of makes me feel like kind of like want to dance and feel light. And it makes me feel really good inside when I breathe this in. It's very, very light, happy energy. And it's almost like I had to do that first before it would change into the next thing. She wanted me to breathe this energy in because sometimes it's too serious. And this helps me feel lighter inside. And we end up stopping and we land like literally above the ground, and we slowly go down to the ground. And we're going down, 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 down now into it's like a waterfall into the earth. It's like, it's more like a valley. So there's water flowing down either side. It's on like one of the things that you see in Venezuela, I believe, that has this really high plateaus with waterfalls going in, and we're going down into something like that type of energy. And I'm going down, down, down into it, and we land on this like very skinny walkway. And we're walking now, and there's waterfalls hitting on both sides, and there's really the wind and the mist, and there's this like, holy crap, this is pretty intense. Like, to do this as a real person, it would be super loud, you'd be soaked, and you'd almost have a hard time walking. This is how powerful the energy is here, and the wind from the waterfalls. And we're walking, and we're going into a really big cave, but there's light shining down, and there's a bunch of greenery, and it's really pretty. It's not very Egyptian, though. And she kind of turns around and smiles at me. And she's wanting to say it's like she's not just an Egyptian god. She has many different names. And this is part of the message. And the gods itself have many different names. It's not just one. I walk in, and it's full of little monkeys and birds, and they're chirping, and there's lots of light in here. It's not like a cave full of bats. It's a cave that's full of greenery, and the sun's shining. It's a friggin' paradise when you walk in here. It's absolutely astonishingly beautiful. And at the beginning, it's so moist from all the waterfall. It's just so lush and green of the moss and the way the things are hanging down and flowers blooming everywhere. And you go further in, it's still green. And it eventually turns into a rock. And then it goes farther and farther in, and you just hit a solid wall. But there's a structure here that you cannot see yet. She says it's almost like when she starts to walk towards it, it starts to appear, but if she's not there, you cannot see it. And it's against where you see the rock is basically an illusion, because that's where the structure is. And there's a whole huge part in behind that is hidden. So when you walk into this place, you'll walk into a wall of rock. That's the structure. It's almost like when she walks into this place, it turns into a paradise that continues on. But there's a reason why she doesn't want people to go any further than this. So she keeps people out. And only when she comes here is that she's the one that activates the change in the energy of this place. And then you start to see the place even further in. Otherwise, you just hit a wall, and you'll never find anything here except a beautiful garden. And so we walk in further, and it levels off, and there's a big pool of water here, and it's very glistening, and there's an amazing structure that there's light that comes down here that's very subdued, because the greenery is overgrown, and there's tiny little holes all in a ceiling, but it's just letting kind of like light through, but not streams of light. so it's diffused. And I'm seeing the structure, and it's like a stone, big stone, kind of like gazebo, open structure. And we're walking towards that. I mean, she walks right over the water, and I walk with her. And the water's full of beautiful fish, all different, like tropical colored fish. And it's really pretty. And we walk up to the gazebo type structure, and it's all opened, and it has like a round top, and it has another round top above that. And there's a pool here, and she goes into the pool, and instantly when she goes into the water, she just she just goes up to about her waist and just sits in the pool, and she wants me to join her in the water. And it's like a hot springs here, and it flows, and it's a big, like, so the gazebo itself is like a hot springs, comes up in the middle of this gazebo, and this is where we're going into. And I go into the water, and it's very airy. It's kind of hard to explain. It's very bubbly, but it's heavy at the same time. Okay, it's how would you solve something that's light and heavy? And it's kind of weird. It's like when you go in, you will sink down into it, but you're also, it's almost separating the heavy part of yourself from the light part of yourself. And this is the message she wants to say. The springs will pull the dark part of yourself to the bottom, and the light part of yourself to the surface, and you can separate the two. And she wants me to separate from the dark part of who I am. So I do that, and I get really light, and I walk over and I sit beside her, and this dark part of myself is sitting there, and it's not moving. It's frozen in place. And she walks over and she looks at this part of myself, and she finds things that are like needles, and she's pulling them out of me, and they're like little spikes. And she takes these spikes, and she actually has it's kind of like a smaller pool, and she places these spikes into the pool, and she pulls out, I don't know, about 30 spikes. And then the dark part of myself sits up, and it's like very free. It's like as soon as she takes the spikes out, then I'm able to, this dark part of myself stands up, and it feels much lighter. And then instantly I get pulled back into myself again, and I feel lighter, and I feel good. It's like, but I go and I ask her, well, what is, like, I go over to the smaller pool, and I see there's little tiny, all the actual spikes are like little worms inside of there, and they become one round ball, and that round ball is sitting at the bottom of the smaller pool, and she's sprinkling stuff in there, and it becomes a stone. And she's sprinkling more and more and more stuff, and it becomes like a charcoal, like a black stone. And she keeps sprinkling, and it eventually cracks, and it becomes, it's a circular stone that's full of color. It's like an opal, actually. It is an opal. It looks just like an opal, and she holds it up, she says, no, it's not an opal. This is like, it gives off energy. It gives off different colored energy, and there's explosions inside of this, and it's like a whitish color on the outside that has full of colors, sparkles of light, and it's really intense. And it's kind of like a seashell in the inside, which really has like a pinkish white color to it, but then has really intense colors all around it. It's really shiny. It's like, I guess it's a lot like an opal. And after a while, the white and stuff turns into amazing colors that just kind of go, and it gets more and more and more and more and more intense. The colors become more vibrant and brighter, and she keeps sprinkling this stuff, and it gets brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter, and it becomes like it's almost like a star in itself that gives off multiple beautiful colors. It is ridiculously bright. And she says to all of you that are listening that when your soul absorbs the darkest energy, it's like a black hole. It absorbs light and more light and more light and more light. So when you think, sometimes you think darkness is pure black, but the darker and the harder the trials in your life, you can produce, when you reverse that, you create a supernova instead of a black hole, you could say. And it's ridiculously powerful. And she takes that and it places inside my head, right into my third eye, and so you start to, I start to stumble back and I fall into the water. And as soon as I fall into the water, I'm falling into the ocean. And this stuff is going inside my head, and it's like being the most vibrant and beautiful colors that you've ever seen inside my head. And I'm falling into the water, and all of a sudden, the whole place turns into like a beautiful undersea world that has glowing plants and fish and the most amazing colors. And I'm able to see in the dark. And she says, if you don't go into the depths of your soul, you're never going to be able to see in the dark. And one of the things she describes, like northern lights, can only be seen at night, but they're some of the most beautiful things that you'd ever see if you see them when they're at their best, at the 10, out of a scale of 1 to 10. When you see them at a 10, they'll change your soul. When you're able to see in the dark, you can see that there's sometimes the most beautiful colors that you could ever imagine inside of darkness when it's reversed. So when darkness gives off light, it's the most powerful and beautiful light that you could ever see. And when you think the only visible light is white, which is the reflection of all light, and you take a black hole that pulls all that light in for 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, 1,000,000 years, and it forces that light into a tiny little ball of darkness. What's going to happen if you take all that energy and reverse it? That's what it's like when you go through hard times in your life. You absorb so much light. You absorb so much light to try to heal yourself that it forms the most unbelievable power within yourself. And the only way of achieving that is to go in and heal and reverse that energy inside yourself, which turns into unbelievably powerful energy. It makes you feel a hell of a lot lighter. So if the world decided to go inside themselves to transform themselves, reverse the darkness into light, it will change things ridiculously fast. Because how many years, how many thousands and millions of years have you been absorbing that light inside yourself, into the deepest parts of yourself? The blackest black flipped onto itself, all that light that it absorbed to create the darkness, when it's turned around, is the most powerful energy in the universe. If you want to know what love is, that's what it is. And if you don't understand it, then in time you will, if you allow the souls to speak to you, the spirits to speak to you. They'll teach you how to truly love. It's getting pretty dark out. Didn't even realize that. Well, that was a pretty incredible journey. Very incredible journey. I really like that. Totally did not expect that direction of things. Thank you very much, everyone. And if you wish to check out my Northern Lights, you can visit my Northern Lights page at Joseph Bradley Auroras. And I have Yukon Skies as my Northern Lights tours, which I would love to have somebody come up and spend a couple of days going around checking out the Northern Lights and talking about spirituality. It'd be amazing. And you can check also my Almond Rost Awakening page. Just in time for the phone to ring. The other one. Such beautiful technology. Take care, everyone. Bye.